That was crazy. And welcome to Beyond the Pendulum. This is episode 38. Coming up there uh, with the numbers. Yeah. Once again, I'm still on a Twitter hiatus until I don't know. I, I don't know. I have my ways of getting my information, and I really don't feel like I miss. I miss out on some things, but I don't miss out on a lot of the major things. It really hasn't been a whole lot of updates that I would say. I would say they're more along the lines. I'm not literally listening into like a few accounts that would be updating me on current legislation that would be changing the UFO UAP landscape, but they have their own websites, so I really don't have to go to Twitter as much. I don't know. I will return after hiatus, but I just feel I don't know. A lot of a lot of time spending looking around through uh, algorithms of regurgitated stuff, and after like 10 minutes of scrolling, I've already seen. I get thrown in these loops where like I'm just getting the same information, just different people just regurgitating it back. I was experiencing that on Twitter. I mean, on Reddit as well. It wasn't any better. Um, I don't know. I would actually say that the Reddit algorithm might be a little worse than the than on at Twitter X or whatever the hell's going on, or whatever Elon wants you to call it now. I think he got pissed off recently that people were calling it Twitter again.
Yeah, now X. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out like the switch to X. Like X is experimental. If you're like in the military and aircraft. But then you had that whole like the 1960s. Muslim folks like Malcolm X. Is it that
Uh,
kind of X or is it the other X?
it
Or
might be.
where
I
is he
think I
trying to
might think it
go
might
with
have been
that?
for his son X AX, whatever the hell his son's name is. And then I think
But
he got his I think the whoever does the names or whatever that records your names. I think the Social Security office told him that he couldn't name his son like one letter or something like that. It had to been more than one or whatever it was.
oh yeah,
A.
that's like an old joke. Yeah, you can't get away with that.
Yeah, you can't just have one letter.
And there's certain reserved words too, like you can't call him Hitler. Or I'm not sure what the whole list is now, but there's like forbidden. I guess you can't call him shit or that's no name for a kid.
Oh yeah,
You can't do that. Now you can scramble up the lettering with all the ebonics. Sometimes get away with that, but
yeah,
about it.
yeah. You can't mix letters and numbers too in your name. Can't do that. Like you can't be like your name can't be Tim with a seven for the T. You can't do that.
Now I guess like damn, what's his name? Kanye. He's just yay. So I mean, you can get it down to two letters.
I
That's
actually
pretty
heard. I
good.
actually heard. Apple pulled his fucking music again. Yeah,
I think he was trying to suck his way back in, but it's not working. And
I
then he
think.
had another
I
relapse, and it was like, yeah, whatever, man.
I don't know what drug he's on. I heard.
He might just have issues. I mean, a lot of Hollywood people do. It's part of the creativity, I guess. But at the same time, they're kind of nuts.
I was gonna say he's a little too chunky to be on meth, so I don't know what the hell it would be. Maybe cocaine. I could see that.
It's paranoid. I don't know if he's hearing voices, but got that paranoid bend about him.
Yeah.
Well, he's been trained. He's been a victim of black slavery and 400 years of abuse. And I mean, I guess they would get to you after a while. It's like, you think about it.
You don't remember?
If you pose it that way, it just
No,
it's
remember
pretty
Kanye?
depressing.
Kanye said that he said that it was a choice. His ancestors, what happened to his ancestors was a choice, and I was like, I don't know, what goes on in that guy's head is it baffles me. Like I met schizophrenics on the street that had a little more that made a little more sense than what goes on than what comes out of that guy's mouth. You know, I'm not lying there.
Well, he could have been, when these actors and all get old, they have to come back some way. They need to be relevant somehow, so they have to do something outrageous.
I just think
Uh,
I think he's got
he's
mental
nuts.
issues. Yeah, and surrounds himself around people who are yes people, and once you start doing that, you start living your own little world, and and I guess once you're at superstar level, like it doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah, I mean, you're rich, so you're going to have a lot of people hanging around, and you got money, so that's not a problem.
Yeah.
Or you get like Snoop Dogg, you got so many people around you, and you smoke about 2 pounds a day,
Oh
just
yeah,
because.
I saw that guy's ashtray. Oh God, where the fuck I see his ashtray? I saw fucking Snoop Dogg's ashtray. He posted it somewhere, and he didn't mean for it to be like the main conversation piece, but some guy said there was like 2 ounces of roaches there, like of just straight up smokable weed, and they weren't even like all the way smoked. They're like all halfway smoked. Apparently, like Snoop Dogg likes. I guess he's got this weird thing where I guess he likes this. He likes the what do you call it? I used to be like that, but only to a certain point where like the weed starts tasting different when it's not green. I used to be real picky about that too, but over the years, I kind of get over it. It's like smoking a cigarette after you
Oh,
smoked it.
you
Yeah,
want
like a
fresh
Rafe
stuff,
Rye.
not dank, you
Yeah,
can't be old and moldy.
yeah. I used to be like that. It's like smoking a cigarette halfway and then like
Mm.
smoking the other half. It just has that weird taste.
Well, I mean, hey, if you could afford to be like that and smoke fresh all the time, I mean, hey, that's great. But
Anyway, back to UAP news. I got one thing, and it was there's been some drama on UFO Twitter and Reddit Twitter for a while about Lou Elizondo. After the Pentagon said that he was not the leader, the head honcho from ATIP, which was the predecessor to AARO and some other stuff. Um, John Greenwald was able to FOIA some documents and I mean, randomly, Lou Elizondo was listed as the director at ATIP, which now we have the naysayers are pushing back, mainly Stephen Greenstreet, who does like I don't even know what he does at the New York Post, but apparently Stephen Greenstreet, I guess, caught on and had backlashed and made like stitched together clauses, tweets, and a video without context, painting a completely different picture. And I'm just like saying that like I like to say that there I know for a fact, okay, and I'm not gonna say how I know, and it's not gonna say the enigma, but I have like I know there is pushback and deception within the community, and I will say that I known it from a personal level, right? Personal level, and I've seen it in real time. But sometimes, I would say a lot of the time, it's just the UFO community doing it to itself. Like you get a bunch of kids who all want the same shit, but for different reasons, and they're all gonna fight over the same shit, even though they all want the same thing. You know, that's what happens to the UFO community. And I was listening to some people from the I kind of had it with these people, or no, actually, I listened to somebody talk in the educated category about the flaws in skepticism in general. In general, skepticism. There are flaws in the whole skeptic community, even the whole skeptic group, the ideology. There are flaws, major flaws within the ideology, and the number one thing that came up in discussion after discussion where I heard all this stuff was internal bias, internal bias, internal bias to the point where they have to do mental jumping jacks to prove something, and then if it doesn't, what do they do? They will they will make the data fit, and then when it doesn't, they won't elaborate on whatever, or they'll get their small little crowd and move on to the next. But there are, God, I didn't even know that skepticism. God, did they say skepticism actually started in ancient Greece? It was actually a mental discipline, and there are flaws within. Like I guess most people who are skeptics don't even know that it was started from a guy. I don't think his name was Skepticus or whatever the fuck his name was, but it is, it was a form of philosophy, and
Yeah, well, I mean, debates in the town square go way back. I mean, that wasn't. I mean, I would think way before the Greeks, but um,
well,
that
that's
whole idea, that way of approaching it,
yeah. The main
it's
thing that these people came up with was, these people are not practicing skepticism. When they say they're a skeptic, that's not real skepticism. It's not even close to what how I was hearing the 10 or 15 minute discussion on it was. These people who call themselves skeptics, 99.9% of them, their internal bias is that it's fake, and I got to prove that it's fake. That's where you run into that's like the major flaw that automatically negates on everything that you've done. You know, in
wouldn't that be the point of being a skeptic, though? You're a skeptic of the UFO hypothesis, right?
well,
But you would be biased against it because
because
you're a skeptic. I mean,
internal bias makes you see things, makes you not see things that are right in front of your face all the time. Um, kind of have to go at a lot of things with an unbiased attitude, and that's hard for a majority of people out there. Even I have issues with it.
oh, sure, everybody does. I mean, I don't think you can not be biased. That's what, and it's like if you're reading, news articles, you just have to, learn what, reporters' biases are, and then kind of read through the lines. When certain
Yeah.
things come up, you just know they're going to have this view or that view on it, and that's just the way it is. So, but you can always cross check with somebody else, and that's the same thing with the debate in science or even in the UFO community. I mean, there's nothing wrong with debate, but typically that leads into factions and you know
Oh,
the, the
that's what.
promoting of beliefs that rather than being honest about what the does this belief even make sense, if you're covering up your data or just pushing something because you can. That's
I
not a
actually,
skip. That's
I actually,
propaganda.
yeah, I actually used to see a lot more of the other side in the UFO community back in the day when there were a lot more hoaxers, dude. Like I know that there are a lot of people making fake videos, but they aren't trying to push it off as like they aren't trying to push it off like some of the stuff that was going on, you know, when I was really started getting into the when I was real younger. There was a lot of shit going on in the '90s that was like totally out there in left field. And then, when push came to shove to prove, what was going on, they would disappear and crumble, never to be heard of again. But now since the invention of, social media, it seems like the skeptics have a louder voice than anything else. I don't know. That maybe that's just my perception, but I remember. I still remember when '98 the Phoenix Lights and hearing about that. I remember hearing about it on Art Bell before before it was all mainstream. It took about 2 months actually after for anybody to hear about it. I think I first heard it on Art Bell. I think it was like a month later than it was on the news and all over the place. But there was a big delay between the event and what had happened. You remember that, right?
Yeah, I wasn't, back in that day, I was working at that time. So, I mean, I might have known it was going on, but I mean, honestly, I lost a decade, back in that day, with doing too many hours.
Oh,
Uh, I'm probably like you are today. It's hard to stay up on things,
oh yeah. I remember Kurt
especially
Russell.
back
Kurt
then
Russell
on
saw it
this.
too.
Yeah, if you weren't, in that area, of course, it was on Arizona news. I mean, locally, and in the UFO community, probably found out pretty quick. But it wasn't like now with the internet. I mean, it took a little bit longer to get things out, and then if you were busy with your job or whatever, well,
Well, we had Art Bell, but they were pretty bad back in the day about doing repeats.
yeah,
Yeah.
fewer outlets to get it out. The I guess once you did hear the story, though, what I remember from it is, once you hear the story and kind of look into it at all, and you find out how many people saw all this stuff. I mean, it was tens of thousands that called 911 alone. I mean, it's just like, well, something had to be there. You know that's not normal.
Yeah.
And then you have to cut through the cover stories of the bullshit, the Air Force dropping flares and all that crap. It's like whatever.
Yeah, even Kurt Russell was reported it on his while he's flying his plane.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he was flying on a private like a private airport. He was one of the few. I think that was recorded too. But yeah, he did report it into the tower or whatever landing strip he was at. Like, too many people saw it. Come on.
Yeah, and then there was one gal. She was kind of Dr. Kitei, I think was her name. She came out with a documentary that was pretty good early on, um, about it. But once again, that's still taking years, to get it out there. But well, that's why you have to like be in the community. That's where you're really going to hear it. All these stories.
Yeah.
It's like anything else, being on top of politics, trying to be on top of your government, what kind of bills and nonsense they're pushing through in the smoky back rooms, yeah, good luck with that.
I still remember Bob Lazar coming on Mark Bell.
Yep,
That was a
yep.
treat back in the day. Actually, I heard. Okay, so Project Gravitron. I haven't. Oh God, let me check. Project Gravitar. I think is still pushed back we'll see if it comes out. The new documentary on Bob Lazar. We'll
Well, it was the other guy was in it. George Norrie. He was the one. I didn't. I kind of got into Art Bell later, but it was like Norrie was doing the paranormal and or UFO stuff too, and that's kind of who I heard it through initially.
Yeah, yeah, they're all plugged in. I've actually. It's been almost a good decade since I've listened to Coast, and I've kind of heard it's kind of more all over the place, and it's not as great as it used to be. Um, but I don't know. I'll pick it up one day if I start getting an overnight job again. But uh, mainly it was good for. I mean, it was good for me at the time, but
Yeah, when
um,
you were starved for sources or like anything,
yeah, because like late
right there,
night.
or you had to buy it like a UFO magazine or something along those lines to get some kind of updated news.
Yeah, or if you're lucky, your your AM radio station would rebroadcast it during the day. Most didn't.
You know, yeah, back in that era, well, Dad was still alive back then, but he would go through the newspapers like I mean every page, really looking, and he would find stuff like that, weird things that I mean, who has the time?
Exactly.
Now newspapers, I mean, they're not
Now
what they
that,
used to be.
no, they're firing people.
Yeah,
They don't. They don't.
people don't buy your propaganda anymore. Sorry, you might actually have to do investigative journalism again. Oh my
Well,
God.
now they have a believe it or not, as much as they say that there is an AI articles out there, I spotted a lot of them on MSN.com, which
Uh,
they don't work for MSN, but MSN does it's how should I say the MSN news carousel, just like Google, I think they hook in through RSS feeds, and I've spotted content that didn't make any sense. Like there was like one, and I thought they were hacked, and it took me about 20 minutes, just like going back to this one article. I was like, who the fuck? And then I was just like, you know what? This is an AI article with an AI bot that doesn't know what the fuck it's saying, because it didn't make any sense. It was saying that it was going over and over and over again. It didn't make any sense about how that Indian guy that's running for president, Swami, was really an alien spy, but it was like an extraterrestrial alien spy. And this was like going over and over again, but didn't make any sense. The whole article made no sense. Like
well, they're
nothing.
going to try. Yeah, they're going to try throwing those in there. And I mean, I see other trash that's thrown together like that. It's just, the headlines and the body of the article that don't match up. Just
Oh, lots
sensational
of that.
headlines. So you get the clickbait, but it's just like, what is this crap when you start reading it?
I start seeing a
So
lot of that
is that AI? I don't know. But it's definitely crap.
I see a lot of that in engineering, the popular engineering news articles. I haven't seen a lot of that.
Oh, that's bad if you're seeing it in an engineering article. That's weird.
Well, the popular ones, I'm not saying the popular ones are the best ones.
Uh, yeah, you just have to be. I think the problem today is because the propaganda, there's so much of it. And if you're just not a high enough IQ to like get above the cloud layer so you can look and see what bullshit for what it is, then you're really stuck. You really are in that fog of just believing a bunch of crap. If you're tuning into the wrong channels or get sucked down the wrong rabbit hole.
Oh, speaking of a rabbit hole, I'm gonna go over the NASA. I'm gonna skip over the NASA religious stuff, the NASA consciousness religious stuff, but there's new there is a new thought about neutrinos, and I know there is more than one neutrinos. There are muon neutrinos, but the new thought. This is a new theory. This one's really going to trip you out, right? Like, have you ever seen that movie, The Tenet? The Tenet, where there was one reality where they were going forward in time, one where they were going backward in time. Everything was going reverse.
I can't say I saw that movie now.
Or there was like a parallel reality where they could
No,
one
no.
was one universe was going forward, the other one was going backwards.
Well, that I mean,
You don't
that
remember? You
is
don't remember the
like most.
Tenet? No.
No,
Oh,
no, I don't.
okay. So apparently, the thought is that neutrinos are actually not interacting with anything because they're going backwards in time. Like
Mm,
like they're not they're not so like our like everything in our universe is going forwards in time, right? But we have to get out special detectors to detect neutrinos because they don't interact with anything. But the thought is there is a theory out there that these things are moving that these particles are moving backwards in time, which might account for some of the mysterious number. Like I was just looking at like a lot of these numbers that didn't make any sense. Like apparently, atoms only make 4% of the mass in the universe, and then like 26% they think um, is dark matter.
you know.
And then I'm like, well, where's this other huge chunk? And then I started
Well,
hearing them talking about that there might be more particles that are accounting for all of the stuff in the universe, but it might not be moving in the same direction as the physical universe that we have. And what they were saying is that what were they saying, that there might be a convergence point, and there's a lot of old theories about um, a universe that has that contracts and expands on itself like a Mobius strip, and we're just too stupid to see or not around long enough to see any evidence of it. Whether
mm,
these maximums in both directions that causes the universe to collapse and then explode on itself.
yeah, I guess in a universe like ours that looks like it's expanding
But we're
ever
not.
faster, you're not going to, you know, I mean, you can theorize about such things that, a universe that's not expanding fast enough that collapses on itself. I mean, that could be true.
Well,
Um,
we also don't know. Well, see, there's a lot of weird theories where like they say that everything is moving around from us, but like when I got into like the weird, there's a lot of problems even with astronomy where we don't. Once we try to start measuring things that are outside of our solar system, we there's a lot of inaccuracies, and I didn't actually think that they are measuring things based on the relation to another object that we have some known thing at some point, but these are all best guesses, and I think that there's been a lot of debate on whether we even know what we're measuring or how we can measure anything that far. And I think when these two trains of thought about like how we measure light years and how we are measuring things, the two theory, the two major ways that they do it out there were off by like a fraction of like 0.5%, which is like half a
yeah,
percent, but that's still a lot. when you're
Yeah,
talking big
that's true. And
numbers.
I want to say it's bigger than that. It's the well, you have that certain type of supernova, either a 1A or 2A, whichever one it is. That's like the standard candle. Okay, which works really good up to certain distances, and then you use. I'm trying to think of what the other way is they do it.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
But
about. Yeah, you're right.
yeah, but between the two ways, they start to diverge. Well, which can't happen unless there's other distortions going on. Now, I think to me that's what they're seeing. You're getting out to distances where at that time when they were closer, or whatever was going on from the explosion in their reference and in their time, there's been a distortion in their space between what they know in their space and what we see in our space. That's why the two methods don't work. Otherwise, they would have to work. If
Yeah,
this is a certain type of supernova and it puts out this much light, well, and we know what the intensity is, then you know how far away it is. But then that doesn't work. Gosh, I wish I could think of what that other way is they do it right off. But yeah, this discrepancy is the problem,
yeah.
and it is what it is. They should converge. The problem with both of those theories is they should come up with the same numbers and they don't, which itself tells you something.
Which there's something inherently about the universe that we just don't understand.
Yeah, there was an acceleration. Uh, maybe take it. There was a distortion of time going on in the earlier universe that stops happening at some point. That's really what I think they're seeing is
Oh,
and
how the
then this
universe
whole thing
expanded.
about we've gone back so much in time, and then we're seeing things that and structures that seem to be there too fast. Well, that would be if the time is being distorted that bad, in that distorted universe, the time was what it was, but that's not the same time as now. The distortions aren't the same. Otherwise, how do you account for it?
Well, the theory was is that in the first second, the universe expanded faster than the speed of light. That's a leading theory. But
Yeah, well, yeah, that's that inflation model. It actually was expanding faster, or was time just being distorted to make that effect? You can do it either way.
yeah, that's assuming if there was a Big Bang, because we're still debating that. There's just not one central point where they can figure it out.
Yeah, that's the other thing I don't get is like, well, wait a minute, you can't be in an ever expanding universe and there not be a center. That
And
makes no. It
and
just
there are astronomers that tend to believe that the universe is flat. I personally think that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. I would think that it'd be more like a curved donut where if if you go in one direction you end up back where you started. But you wouldn't necessarily
yeah.
see you not normally wouldn't but you necessarily wouldn't see. So like if you looked in one direction and let's say you could have like a beam just going out, you know, if you could have like a beacon, just shooting a laser beam shooting, one direction, eventually at some point it would come back and hit you at the same point. But that's just me. I it would make more
Well,
sense
that's
to me
the
that way.
yeah. I mean, there is now if I mean there are such measurements though. I mean, there can be flat space, curved space, concave, convex, curved space. Okay, but and this is the kind of the hardest condition to come to is like the condition we're in when space is actually flat. That's like really hard to do, and some and at the same time it's good because we don't have to fight that problem of like you're saying looping, which would give you loop time and all the rest of it. But that's not what happens for us. I think they've pretty much established that our space is what's considered flat. There's just the space itself is what it is. There's no curvature. Now it can be expanding and stretching and all that, but as far as what you see, there's no curved lines of sight, anything like that.
What happens? What happens if you were able to get a spacecraft that was able to go to the boundary of where space? What happens? I always wondered that about that. What happens if you're able to
Yeah,
get out of space? Like, can you exist? Does it exist?
yeah, there has to be a boundary layer, but you can't get there. Nobody or nothing can ever get there.
Well, something was there at one point.
Yeah, yeah, we do have evidence that there was something there from that uh, dark flow issue.
God, that'd be trippy just to get a flashlight to, if you could, to just shine it at the edge of the edge of space. Like, what would happen?
Yeah, I mean that. Are you outside of time and space, or
If it's possible that it might. I mean, me just thinking, it might actually nullify like a light beam. Like you might see it just like cut off at like a certain point because it can't exist because nothing can exist outside of space. Because space is a thing; it's a framework, you know, for
yeah,
photons, whatever.
you might just disappear. I mean, if you're
Yeah,
not in the framework that you were part of, then I don't know. I wouldn't think anything good's going to happen. It's probably going to be pretty bad.
yeah, you might end up like never coming back or existing ever again.
Yeah, you just fizzle out, or you just big flash or something. I don't know.
Or it'd be like that. Um, it'd be like on Back to the Future where like you just disappear from like magazines, eventually fading away. No, nobody remembers who you are.
That's like some of the old Soviet magazines and pictures were like that when they were rubbing out their enemies out of photographs and shit. Oh man. No, I mean, what is there, I mean, if you do accept the idea that there could be these literally infinite, universes out there, then the sky's the limit. If there's that much variability, you can create them all at the same time. They're just all out there.
Well, I think that there is convergence of of universes. That's why I think that the great dark spot is. That's why I think it is a the reason you are seeing stars there is due to a gravitational pull or push. Um, and I think that I'm not the only one who's thought of that. I actually got the idea from somebody from another theory where there is a spot in our known visible universe that we can see where there is a God, it's almost 300 million light years. There's like nothing. There is a spot where there is nothing, like nothing. You've heard about that, right? They call it the Great Void.
Um, I'm not so. I mean, there are dark areas of the sky, like when they do those deep field photographs, they always pick the darkest part of the sky. Um,
Oh no,
but it's still
they
the
found this through
void.
the they found this through the background microwave radiation stuff. There's when they found it there was like it was absent of anything.
Yeah, no, we have that. Well, I think that would be because of the dark matter effect. You actually see the dark matter is more of this coalescing force, this stringing of galaxies and all that kind of collection of galaxies that goes on because of dark matter, that's going to create voids, of course.
Yeah, that might make sense.
Yeah, that might be what actually is creating it because it's drawing it away from everything else.
Yeah. Well, let's circle it back around to so did you know did you know that Edgar Mitchell well no, I guess the Apollo 14, and he was really big into the he's really big into the telekinesis stuff, and was one of the pioneers of the astronauts. There was quite a few of them actually at the time that were while he was up there. Actually, while he was doing the Apollo 14 mission, did you know he was doing telekinesis experiments on his downtime when he's up
Oh,
there?
all in the Apollo. Yeah, I'm trying to remember his story of how he got into all that. I want to say it was after things he got into afterwards, and he brought a lot of credibility to that movement, by being the former astronaut. But I don't think he was, unless it was some other CIA program that we don't know about. And, I mean, it
No,
could
it was
be.
it was it was it was an experiment between him and four well-known psychics where they had 250 cards of random numbers and accuracy of 45% on and I guess one of them was a well-known psychic, and he was doing this on his downtime when he wasn't doing official duties, and I guess NASA okayed it. But yeah, he was
Remote viewing. That was what he was really getting
yeah
into, and very
he was
successful at it.
yeah, he was into a lot of the I guess he got involved with a lot of more consciousness studies, but yeah, he was all mixed up into that CIA stuff, and apparently he wasn't the only astronaut to have this weird psychic change into like more fringe studies. Like a lot of astronauts have reported they don't report it, but amongst themselves and later on, after they're no longer astronauts, they won't report it because they'll get grounded. But a lot of them have reported reports of forethought to problems that are happening out there, information that they couldn't have known, telekinetic thoughts, or just information that they couldn't have originated. No, these would be like conversations they would speak amongst themselves, but there's like this pattern of NASA astronauts where they after they're done, they start getting into these quests later on in their life where they become religious leaders or into spirituality, telekinesis. Like even Neil Armstrong, what does he was looking he went on an archaeology dig or something. He was looking for the lost Incan city or something. Did you ever hear about that?
Mm, no, not so much Neil Armstrong. Now the other fellow we are talking about, I've heard about him in the telekinesis experiments. I think being when you look at the world from the perspective that they had, I think you're gonna appreciate things more and have a different perspective. I don't know why it necessarily would. I think a lot of them were religious before they were astronauts, or they became that way along the way. Uh, so, I mean, it's quite an experience. I mean, that's for damn sure.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I met Buzz Aldrin too, and even he said stuff.
Yeah, and then the
He's
sighting, they had UFO sightings from a lot of these early capsules, and the first ones that orbited. I want to say even the first from like Shepard, even on the first flight, had UFO experiences.
yeah. Now the flashes of light, they know what those were. The ones they were seeing even with their eyes closed. They actually found out that that was radiation hitting their receptors, and the nerve, the optical receptors were interpreting it as
You know,
light.
you know.
But that's the only thing you could put away. But there's been too much. Like they'll see like green beams of light with their eyes open. Like
Yeah, there was one flight where they were already, in the, they had exited orbit and they were on the way to the moon, and yet they're seeing this other craft kind of track them, off in the distance that has, nothing to do with any equipment that they've dropped off or jettisoned along the way. And,
yeah,
there's pictures of it and everything. I mean, something was there. And you go back and think of that day, it's like, well, what else would there be? If you're the first guys that are there, who would that be?
I'm just wondering what's gonna because SpaceX has a lunar lander. Um, it's gonna land there on the 26th.
Yeah, to me, it's about time, man. I mean, go back to the moon, get it over with, and let's get on to Mars, man. Let's quit fucking around.
Oh,
You have to make this next step. Don't
yeah.
care about how
I
hard it
always
is or whatever. You got to start doing it.
I thought that's what I was always thinking. I was like, why the fuck they want to go to Mars? Like we need to you need to have a station on the moon first. Like you have to have a halfway point.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I just, my perspective, I don't see why we can't do both. Like, okay, we've already been to the moon. You know what that's like. I mean, if you want to prove you can put a base there, that's fine. But you certainly have the technology to go further than that.
Yeah.
At least get the first guys on Mars. Can we at least do that? Can we prove that we can land guys on Mars? Come on. Because if you can't do that, or if I mean, then how far are you really going to get? You can just flush Star Trek and everything else down the toilet, man. I mean, because if that's too much trouble, then it's over.
Yeah.
I mean, and truly, long term, it is over for the species because at some point the planet's going to have another big accident or asteroid or whatever, and if you're not some other place, then that's the end of you.
Yeah.
So get to it.
God, it's a crazy time to be alive. And oh yeah, the fusion reactor was able to pump out 2 times the energy they put into it, doing the same shit with lasers. The
Yeah, well,
cold.
they've passed the Holy Grail mark. I mean, now it's just like getting it commercially going commercially. I mean, if you can do those kind of numbers, it's
Well, let's see. There's a lot they're not saying here. Yeah, they got 2 times the amount of energy they put into it, but we're talking. This isn't a fusion reactor. I think they've already got over the point. There's no such thing as what we call true cold fusion. There's gonna be some residual heat, but how do you cool something that's literally the temperature of the sun? Just don't understand that.
well, ideally you have the plasma contained so that it's not really touching any of the containers,
The
the
last
sides of
time
the container, but
They have these things they're called chokma or takanaki, whatever the fuck they're called.
Tokamak.
Chokama, yeah, where they use huge magnetic fields to contain plasma. But even those things can only, we're only talking a minute tops, you know?
Yeah, and the erosion. I mean, there's a lot of issues with it. I think the French are actually getting the closest with this ITER project they're working on. They're like going to the next level, still building the thing, but they'll probably be the first ones to actually kind of produce something that's usable. But you're still going to have all the same, it's going to be like anything. It's got maintenance issues, and then if there's any fuck ups, what's that going to look like?
There's going to be a lot of helium isotopes.
Yeah, what does your cooling system look like? After it gets radiated like that.
Yeah, we don't see radioactive helium on this Earth too much, you know. There's a lot of it on the moon, but helium 3 doesn't exist here on Earth, but it might soon.
Well, I think that's part of going back to the moon. There's a lot of some isotope right near the surface. You can mine it for the moon dust for the radioactive.
Oh yeah, there's a lot
Uh,
of titanium too. Titanium dioxide.
so that kind of makes sense. I mean, that's that. I mean, it's just so hard to shoot. It doesn't make it any kind of viable economic sense yet, but just to prove you could do it.
Oh yeah, mining for profit is completely out of the picture.
It's
I
yeah,
heard, I heard a payload of like a couple of kilograms would cost you like hundreds of millions of dollars, based on just the cost of getting any of that shit off the ground.
yeah. Just getting to orbit's like 10,000 a pound. That's kind of an old number. So, but I mean, the only thing I can come up with is like, look, if you can find like say like that metal asteroid, break off a big chunk, and then just like guide that into make it land on Earth, like a like a meteorite or something. Because wouldn't
Yeah.
that be cheap? But barring that, I mean, and then if you guide it wrong, well, that could be bad, depending on how big it is.
What else did I get? Yeah, there were more papers out about looping in consciousness to quantum mechanics. Oh, speaking of quantum, they were able to get a you know how they've been using qubits, they've been using quantum state uh, processors where they can they're in between state. So they were able to get a plus or minus. They've been able to do that at room temperature, not using the same technique, but with lasers somehow. Able to do quantum computers at room temperature with lasers somehow.
Mm.
Yeah, apparently there was a way that they've been able to do with lasers. I just don't know how. I think it's in its infancy stage, but quantum computers might be a reality if this technique can be mastered.
Yeah,
But
what I mean, I won't pretend to understand what they like this new quantum computing, but my take on what they're trying there is, well, the problem they have is that these quantum states can only be held for so long, and the period is too short to make them actually useful for like a typical memory, to be refreshed and all, like a typical memory would be, because they would lose that state too fast.
oh, you mean you
They're,
can't?
they're they're getting better at it, but yeah, and they can do these, experiments, with these quantum states, but actually getting it to where to some useful point. I think that's the trick still.
Uh, I mean, I can't play Doom on it yet.
Quantum Doom,
Yeah.
and what would that even look? I mean, how could you? What does that even look like? I mean, I don't know. That's does
It's,
quantum does quantum just mean faster? I mean, is that? I mean, that's basically it, right? It can do more computations faster. So
the only thing I
so
can
so
think
what?
of, the only thing I can think of, and this is what I heard that was the main reason to have them, is just the computational power. And the only practical thing I heard of was to have like to get a decompiler to go like through like 70 million lines of code. For some absurd reason, you would have multiple modules and whatever. Just like so, let's just say that you had one file that needed to be decompiled or whatever. It had 70 million lines of code for some weird reason, and something like that would be able to go through it. At some like the practical applications of shit like this is so narrow in scope. Outside of science, I don't see any practical applications for day to day use. I mean, you're not going to be playing the latest video game on a quantum computer.
No, I guess for decrypting and decoding. I mean, that's always a big one,
Yeah,
and intense, computationally intensive, and but yeah, it just seems to me like okay, can't we do damn near everything we need to do with the power that we got?
well, believe it
If
or
you've
not,
already got AI and the beginning of that without quantum, then what's that really going to do for you?
and believe it or not, I was seeing like I was like looking into a lot of these tech firms are kind of looking the other way at like these CPU processors and looking at these there's a Chinese company that's been able to put to mass three different types of computational power. The third one I never heard one. One was called TPU. There was a GPU, CPU, and a TPU. And I've been working IT for a while, and I never heard of like a TPU, but apparently like it's a thing, and been able to mash that shit into something about the size of like your M.2 chip, and this is like where the future of chips of computational processors will start going in the future. Will be a mishmash of these different kinds of processors because the whole hyper-threading cores and dual cores like that's all gone. Like that kind of technology is going. Or it's not obsolete, but it's not. They are reaching upper limits when it comes to that. They can refine it and make it faster, but there are some limiting factors to doing it the way that they have been doing with the Intel chips. So
Yeah, I think the idea goes back to the qubit being able to encode more information in fewer bits than typical bits
yeah,
because they can take on so many different values. Then you can do all the same things with fewer bits, and then therefore you're faster, using a
yeah.
qubit. But I'm like, well, okay. I just I don't see where all this expanded like computing power actually does anything for us in the physical world. It's like we're reaching physical extremes and limits, which is like say the speed of light, and getting anywhere. That's the limit you can't seem to do anything about.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have quantum quadrillion megaflops, okay, that's great, and it runs the latest games, but what else? Uh, how are you going to build something that can exceed all these other problems that you have in the physical world? And that's where I don't see anything changing. It's like all that set in stone. It is what it is. Math, the speed of light, all that. Yeah, how do you get around that?
Yeah.
How do you get yourself to some other place in any reasonable amount of time?
Well,
Yeah, I mean, if the damn computer can't solve that problem, what's it worth?
exactly.
Maybe it can. It'll make a fool out of me. That'd be nice, but I just don't see it. Even if he did come up with some new material, or okay, well, maybe warp drive. Okay, maybe that would do it. But will quantum AI do that for us?
Doubt it.
When
Uh,
quantum AI realizes how stupid we are and the fact that we're asking it questions, where does that put you?
yeah, with that, I gotta end the show. Gotta put my baby to sleep. Um, gosh,
All
we'll be
right.
back. We'll be back on not next week, but it'll be 29th. So 29th we'll be having another show, and we'll end with